Shalom Aleichem, good morning, welcome to our viewers on Torah Anytime. Parashas Behar, Parashas Bechokoisai, and Sfiras Omer, and a little Inyane de Yoima, Emir Tzeh Hashem. I'm going to dedicate the shir for the Aslacha of Ben Zion, Ben Dosa, him and his family should see apparent and revealed Siyata Dishmai in everything they do. Parashas Behar starts with the commandment, Kisavo El Haaretz. Asher ani noisen lachem, when you come to the land that I give you, Veshavsa Haaretz Shabbos LaHashem, should rest. Shesh shanim tizrach sadecha, 6 years you should work in your field, and the 7th you should rest. Seemingly the order should be reversed. First you work the land for 6 years, and then you rest. But here the Torah says, as soon as you come into the land, Veshavsa Haaretz Shabbos LaHashem, doesn't really work out. When you come to the land, Veshavsa Haaretz. No. When you come to the land, you should work 6 years and then let the land rest for a year. But the Torah switches it around. Why is that? The Belzer Rebbe came into Israel, I think it was the year Tafshin Dalet, so that's 81 years ago. And he stayed in Tel Aviv, that's where he lived. Tel Aviv was once upon a time a big city with a lot of Rebbes, a big Torah city, I mean. With a lot of Rebbes that lived there. He had a gabbai by the name of Rabbi Kleppoltz, and he told this gabbai, go buy some gardening tools. He had a big yard, and start taking care of this yard. And we want to plant all kinds of things. They had grass, and they had some trees. We want to make sure that everything works out here. Go get some hoses, we should water the place. And almost every single day, he would ask the gabbai, no, what's going on with our little garden? How's it coming along? Every single day. And sometimes he would actually go down to the garden to check it out. And everybody wondered because the Belzer Rebbe was not into Oilam Hazeh. You know, there's two types of people. Oilam Hazenik, he's into Oilam Hazeh. Oilam Abanik, the guy who's into Oilam Haba. And some people, while they're here, they're already there. The Belzer Rebbe was one of those people. So for him to come every single day and to look at the garden, to check out what's going on, is this growing, is this okay? Well, it was so strange. But then Erev Rosh Hashanah Tafshin Hey came along 80 years ago, and that was Shemitah. So Erev Rosh Hashanah, he comes to his gabbai and says, Gabbai, until you did such a good job taking care of the garden. It's such a good job, it looks great, but now we have a new mitzvah to catch. Please take all the gardening tools, lock them up. We're going to store them for the whole year. And then everybody understood. The Belzer Rebbe was interested the whole year in what's going on in his little garden to ensure that he can do the mitzvah called Shemitah, to rest from working the land. Which means, we always thought you have to work the land. And somehow, on the 7th year, you have to rest. So, you have to find all kinds of eitzes how to deal with it. It's the opposite. You have to rest in the Shemitah. Ki tavo el haaretz, when you come to the land, the whole essence of coming is to do the mitzvah called Shemitah, to rest. In order to rest, you're going to have to work. So the Torah says, rest. That's the essence of the mitzvah. Oh, you're asking me how? You should work. Shesh shanim tizrach sadecha, 6 years, you're going to have to work. Unfortunately, you're going to have to work. It's exactly the opposite of what we always thought. We tend to think, working is a mitzvah. When they tell us to rest, a whole year, not to take care of my field, it's so hard. Okay, I'm going to try to find out a way how to do it. It's exactly the opposite. Try to deal with the fact that they tell you have to go and work 6 years. That's the hard thing. Not the hard thing to rest. It's a mitzvah to rest on the 7th. Not to work the land. Somehow, okay, fine. We have to try and work for 6 years. We're going to try to do that. But it's exactly the opposite of how we normally look at this. And not only that, the Shemitah writes, the whole mitzvah comes to be mechazek our emunah. That parnasa comes from Ribono Shel Olam and not from our doings. So the whole 6 years, and this is not just regarding Shemitah, obviously. A person who doesn't have a field, who always works throughout all the years, his hishtadlus is not the one that gives him the parnasa. His hishtadlus is something which was required. But it's only the nisayon that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives you. Just like in the Shemitah, the mitzvah is to rest, and you're going to have to work for 6 years in order to increase your nisayon. What really gives me Parnasa, what really yields everything that grows in my field? Is it me doing for 6 years? Or is it HaKadosh Baruch Hu's bracha? And yet, for whatever reason, I'm required to do some kind of ishtadlus. But this is true in every profession, whatever one does. On one hand, they're telling us, you got to do ishtadlus. And yet, in the dynamic balance that has to be met to know that your ishtadlus yields nothing. The Mesilas Yesharim, the end of Perek Chaf Aleph, writes, he defines what ishtadlus really is and how working should be addressed and what is our attitude towards working. And the Mesilas Yesharim says that after the sin of Adam Arishon, there's as if like a tax imposed on all humanity. You have to go to work. But chas v'sholom to think that the ishtadlus is actually what makes you, gives you the parnasa. HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows exactly where you live. He even knows your shoe size and your passport number. So if he wants, he can send you a check. He doesn't need you to work. But there's like a tax imposed on all humanity. He calls it an unnecessary evil. It does nothing. That's his language. The Mesilas Yesharim says working does nothing, and yet you have to do it. Because they want you to be involved in doing something to have an isayon. Is it really me doing it? Or HaKadosh Baruch Hu sending me parnasa? Which means, based on what the Mesilas Yesharim says, if a person sees that he wants a little more income, so instead of working, let's say he works 8 hours. Instead of working 8 hours, he's going to work 10 hours, he needs more parnasa. That's like a person going to the income tax office. Hello? Yes? I see that I owe you $50,000. Can I pay you $75,000? Working is a klala. Is a klala. So would you want to increase the curse in you? Why would you want to do that? Daven order. Ben Torah. Do all those things that Chazal tell us. Give meiser. Tzedakah. Working is a klala. The language of the Mesilas Yesharim is, once you do something, your yoytze, yedei choivat, hishtadlus, now go and be involved in other things. Go and learn Torah and do chesed and do everything else. Not if you sit home and do nothing and eat bonbons on your couch, parnasa is not coming. That's called bitul zman too. As long as you're not involved in working and you're involved in Torah, Kodesh Baruch Hu says, okay, hishtadlus is yoytze, no problem. Now I can shower him with a bracha. So that's the essence of the Shemitah, that's the essence of the Nisayon, the ongoing Nisayon, even if you don't have a field. And that is the realm of Ishtadlus.
The Yartzeit of the Ramchal tonight. The Yartzeit of Ramchal is tonight.
It's tonight. The Ramchal's Yartzeit is tonight. Shh, be left line.
So that means we should take a break from working?
As much as possible, it's a curse. If you involved yourself in Torah at that time, you're doing the greatest work possible. You're working for Ribono Shel Olam. All the Yisurim of Shvis, of Shemitah, in this Pasha, are in the singular. Lo tizra, lo tizmor, lo tiktzor, lo tivtzor. Everything is in the singular. When it comes to the Yovel, the Jubilee year, suddenly the Torah switches and now everything is Lashon Rabbi. Lo tizreu, lo tiktzeru, lo tivtzeru. Why is that? The Har Tzvi brings from his brother, the Yovel only applies when the majority of Klal Yisrael are here. Mimele, that's why it's B'lashon Rabim. But the Shemitah even applies to an individual, even when no one is here, and he's here by himself, he still has to keep the Shemitah. Mimele, when it comes to Shemitah, the Torah speaks in Lashon Yachid, because this applies to every single one of us. Yovel only applies when the Rabim is here. Mimele, it's B'lashon Rabim.
Are we keeping track of when that's going to happen, or do we not know really?
Of course we're keeping track. And the truth is we don't have to keep track, because once it happens and Eliyahu Novi comes, he will tell us 321 tekos in Shas. So you think this is going to neglect to tell us? Not a problem.
Is this going to happen before Eliyahu Novi, that we can see that the majority of Israel is here, or we can't really see that?
That's also machloikis. And on that, did you daven this morning Shachis? Uval Etzion? V'nizke, v'nichye, v'nire. Imit Hashem bekarov.
Is that a machloikis of yoke if Shemitah applies?
Shemitah no matter what applies. The question is Yovel only at the time that Rabbim are here, the majority of Klal Yisrael. I don't know exactly how you're going to count and exactly find out.
Shemitah today is Teraisa?
Shemitah Torah is the Rabbanon, Lekule Alma. But it applies. Yovel doesn't even apply the Rabbanon. Yovel doesn't kick in at all, not the Oraisa, not the Rabbanon. Shemitah is always going to be here, whether on the level of the Oraisa or on the level of the Rabbanon, but it always is here, and therefore it even applies to a Yachid. Yovel only applies to the Rabbim.
But I learned also we need a Sanhedrin to declare Yovel, so they don't have a Sanhedrin nowadays.
Excellent.
Either way.
Nizke, v'nichye, v'nireh.
Very close to the majority of Jews.
How do you know that? Did you go and count?
No, people tell you.
Do you believe people?
Yes, why not? People
Who are the people telling you?
People who know.
Who are the people who know? The people who know are sitting in Best Medrash. I'm not sure that they go out there and try to count everyone in Klal Yisrael. I'm not sure that you can believe the numbers that are coming out in different places because numbers keep changing.
Listen,
I'm not sure.
Says it's Chalta de Gula.
Everybody says?
Well, most people say.
Who's the most people? I'm not sure about your statistics, where you're getting your statistics. Okay.
Every Mizrahi well says it's Chalta de Gula.
Burden of proof of them, but we look into Gedolei Yisrael and we try to ask them what they hold.
I'd like to believe so.
ונזכה ונחיה ונראה. בקרוב, בקרוב, בקרוב.
That's why it says it's
Only
Chalta.
when Mashiach says we have a majority here. That's what they're saying.
We'll see. וספרת לך 7 שבסוס שנים. You should count and count and count. A lot of counting going on. You should count 7 units of 7 years. The mitzvah for the Sanhedrin to count, not only for us to count the Sfiras Omer, which we do every night. There's another count in the Torah. Mitzvah for the Sanhedrin doesn't apply today. Imitzvah Shem Bekorov Mamish. But there's a lot of counting going on. Any relevance to us? Well, what is this essence of all this counting? So Sefer HaChinuch explains, this is to tell us, a declaration, that everything belongs to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And after 50 years, your land that you thought is yours, and you work it, and you do everything to improve it, you work it so hard. At the end, it goes back to the original owners. Because when you know this, says Sefer HaChinuch, you're not going to come to steal from others, and you're going to distance yourself from other people's land. That's the reason, Sefer HaChinuch. My dear Chavrusa, Rav Avraham Lewis, a new interpretation. He says, just like there's a count regarding your land, there's another count, and something else that goes back to original owner. That is our neshama. Our neshama also goes back to the original owner, to where it comes from. The heavenly throne. Mimele comes out that just like counting till 50 applies to the land that goes back to the original owner, so too there's another count of 50. Why 50? In Shabbos Pei Tesamud Beis, Chazal say one is not punished. Beis Din Shel Mala, up to the age of 20. So the only count starts from age 20 and up. David HaMelech says, Yemei Shnoseinu Bahem Shivim Shana. So from 20 to 70 is 50. And that is your own private count to remind us. You're not keeping this neshama here forever. You're not staying here forever. Ultimately, one goes out. One goes upstairs. And according to Yerushalmi, it really works well because Yerushalmi holds that the din of kares is actually 50, not 60 like the Bavli. That's the case. We want to make sure that we keep counting on a regular basis to remember ultimately the neshama is not going to be here. So you have to make sure that every day counts. And therefore, you're going to distance yourself from the wrong things, get close to the right things, so you have your own Jubilee count, which really counts because every single day counts.
How did you get to 50 or 60 being the time of cars?
Because you see, up to the age of 50, 50 is a big number. It's 50 years. From 0 to 50. According to the first calculation, we said from 20 to 70. But the mice, you have 50 years to take care of. And when you do, HaKadosh Baruch Hu takes care of you.
This idea appears. Imam Loeis brings this idea. It started Charles Bafukasar.
Oh yeah? Of your own count of 50?
He says that the symbolism of the 50 years. It's
From 20 to 70, he does the same math?
Imam Loeis, it starts with Charles Bafukasar.
Gewaldig. Parshas Behar talks about ribis. Riddle of the week. Is there any connection between halachos of ribis and halachos of yei nesech? Yei nesech, wine that we have to stay away from, and ribis. Any connection between the two? That applies not to yei nesech, it applies to anything.
Ribbis doesn't.
What about him? As? So you're allowed to take ribis from Israel Mumar, or he's allowed to take ribis? Chas v'sholom. Israel, אף על פי שחטא, ישראל הוא.
There's no tchiyat amitin or ribit. I don't know in Yain Nesach.
No tchiyas ha-mesim is very, very severe. But where is there a source that says no tchiyas ha-mesim? חידש. וחידו. ברכי יוסף, שיעורי ברכה, יורדיה, סימן קוף, למד בי סעיף קוטן א' says, the way of the Rema is to be makel regarding Yain Nesach and regarding Ribis, because he's talking about the Ashkenazim, lefi shehem gidelim bein ha'akum, because the Ashkenazim live among the Goyim, and therefore the Rema is noyeg to be makel in his halachos regarding these two matters. That's the only connection that I found between the two.
And the Sephardim always lived with the,
I guess they lived more in a community, secluded by themselves, less interaction with the Goyim. That's what the Chidah says, and it's a Chiddush.
it happened until later, right?
What's that?
What came earlier? The Sephardim living in their own communities, or the Ashkenazim?
I think it depends. It depends where.
So when he says make a what does he mean? How?
In certain halachos, there's many halachos regarding Yain Nesach and regarding Ribis. The Rema many times tends to be makel more so than the Shulchan Aruch. And the Chidah asks, why is that? It says, because he lives among the Goyim, so he must be makel, otherwise it's going to be very hard for them to get any parnasa. It's a Chiddush, but that's what the Chidah says.
Yain Nesach is the point is to prevent intermarriage with the.
Yeah, but today there's no real today is almost no real Yain Nesach. Everything is almost stam Yainam. So there's much room for leniency because all the Rabban. Rabbi Isai, listen to a Maise Gewaltig. A guy from Bet Shemesh gets a phone call from his friend, a very rich guy in Flatbush, New York. And he says to him, this happened one day after Pesach. And he says to him, I have a big problem, big tzara. And I need you to help me. He says, how can I help you here from Bet Shemesh? He says, I know that you're a trustworthy individual and you're loyal. I want you to go from Bet Shemesh to the Kotel for 40 days straight. Every single day, at the same time. Daven for me. But I don't want you to do, some people go 40 days to the Kotel. What do? They go on Sunday, 5 minutes before Shkia. They daven mincha, they wait there 20 minutes, they daven Ma'ariv. Oh, I went Sunday and Monday. No. That's 20 days. I want you to go for 40 days straight. No shaliach. Don't send anyone. I want you to go 40 days. I know your tefillahs, they listen to you upstairs. 40 days. If you do that, I'm going to give you $5,000. If you miss one day, the whole thing is canceled. But the lumevutal, don't ask me for $1 because you're not going to get it. He says, what about Shabbos? Shabbos, I'm in Bet Shemesh. He says, if you're not in Yerushalayim on Shabbos, so send the shaliach only for Shabbos. It's not going to help you for Sunday. It's not going to help you for Friday. You have to go yourself. Are you in or not? He says, yeah. $5,000? $5,000. Great. This happened one day after Pesach. 2 weeks later. There was gorgeous weather in Bet Shemesh the whole week, except for Wednesday. Beis Iyar, 3 weeks ago, everybody remembers. Very, very hot, major wind, and a fire breaks out all over, and the residents of Bet Shemesh are locked in their city, and they cannot go anywhere. This guy started driving, and they closed the roads, and he can't get to the Kotel. He did 2 weeks. Now he got stuck. He calls the rich guy in New York, and he says, I'm so sorry. I wanted to. I really wanted to. I actually went into the car and started driving. They closed the door. Closed all the roads. What can I do? So I wasn't able to get there. But I'm going to continue from tomorrow. Whoa, wait a second. There's no continuing. I told you and you agreed. 40 days, back to back, not even a break of 1 day. And if you do stop for 1 day, it doesn't make a difference to me. Why? You don't get $1. Taf Shaila and Halacha. Where do you go if not to Dayanim Chashuvim to tell us what should be done? The rich guy claims, look, a deal is a deal. A deal is a deal. We agree together and you accept it. That you go every single day. Imagine that you're coming to me to sell me some merchandise. And you call me and you say, listen, I got stuck. Don't ask, there's a big fire. Is it considered that you came here, you're going to get money for not delivering the goods? You didn't deliver the goods. I understand it's an oinus, I understand. But Lemaisi, you didn't go. And the agreement was you have to go every single day, and if not, sorry. And oines maybe is counted between you and Shamayim. Maybe HaKadosh Baruch Hu counts it as if you did what you were supposed to do. But ben Adam lachaveiro, it doesn't work. It's a business deal. You didn't deliver the goods, you shouldn't be compensated even $1. The Shaliach, the guy from Bet Shemesh, he says, listen, it's not fair. It's true that we agreed. But we agreed for a regular oinus, not force majeure. This is an act of God. This is a crazy oinus that nobody could have expected. And it comes out that if you're not going to pay me, I went from Bet Shemesh to the Kotel for 2 weeks. For nothing. For free. I don't think that if I stop for 1 day with this type of an oinus, that's a reason not to pay me at all. Shimuna Raboisai, Dayani Mumchim. What do you say?
Laws of Shomer, Omer Hinam Shomer Satar. Satar, even for honest, is matur, no?
And therefore?
So I'm trying to make a parallel with the laws of Shomer.
How can we make a parallel? Is he a shomer? What is a shomer? He's a shaliach hired to do a certain job. Why is he a shomer? And he told him ahead of time, if you miss 1 day, I don't care why, if you miss 1 day, you're not going to be compensated.
Yeah, it sounds like he should not get compensated.
At all.
He wasn't able to. It's an honest and it's sad for him.
We feel bad for him, but Lemaisa, you didn't deliver the goods, you don't get anything.
And he's stopping after 2 weeks if he wants.
Is that what you're saying? Finished? No rachamim whatsoever. So the guy drove to Yerushalayim 2 weeks straight for nothing?
That was the agreement.
That was the agreement.
That was the agreement, yeah. He shouldn't have agreed.
But he delivered some value because there were a couple of weeks of the philo. So he had something.
But the condition was made ahead of time, and you agreed that if you stop in the middle for whatever reason, you don't get compensated. I didn't say I'm going to compensate you for 2 weeks of tefillos. I said it's the all or none principle, 40 days or nothing. And you said yes.
Unless the agreement, the legal contract assumes all correct except for case of honest like this. This is not.
So what do you want to give him? What do you want to give him?
Sorry?
So what do you want to give him?
I don't know. It's 2 weeks out of 40 days.
2 weeks. 2 weeks worth.
A pro rata of 2 weeks out of 40 days.
You want to say something?
There's a thing in the Gemara. That something happens to a person like acts of Hashem, feels.
So it's the bad luck of the shaliach.
Yes.
So he loses out. He lost.
Yeah, well, why couldn't he actually point to Shaliach on that day? He could have found someone in Jerusalem.
No, the guy told him, no shlichus, only on Shabbos. If you're not in Yerushalayim, I allow it. Otherwise, I want you to go.
Imagine,
No train, no nothing. All the roads are closed.
imagine the Asher wanted a certain object, and he paid him money to get it from A to B. He stops in the middle. He didn't get the object, so
That's exactly the time of the rich guy. In business, this is business. You don't come and deliver the goods, you don't get paid, even though I feel terrible for you. But why would you be paid?
Same thing would happen if he was sick, for somebody couldn't go. What's the difference?
That's what the rich guy said at the time. If you go, you get paid. You don't go, I don't care why. You don't get paid.
That's not that he accepted. When the guy from Shemesh accepted, he didn't have in mind that there would be an onus. He was sure he was going to do it. And now that this came up, I think even that he's honest. He's a rock on the project. He's allowed to continue doing it. He should get paid. I think he should continue to get paid.
He should get paid for 40 days?
He should continue.
Should continue, and we ignore the fact that he broke, there was a breach in the contract, and we'll totally ignore it.
I think it works even in contractual law. I think that the member from.
But what about our condition that you agreed to?
You can make conditions by other things also between people, and it still isn't honest. Still, you can get paid for it.
You have a raya? Because kol hamoitzi mechaveiro alav haraya. If you want to take out money from the rich man's pocket, you got to provide a proof.
If I borrow money and you make a clause in the contract,
Saying what?
something that's over the top, something that's not like if I can't pay it back in 30 days, then I'm going to become your slave. I don't know. And then for some reason you can't pay it back in 30 days, He didn't have in mind he's going to be the man's slave. He would say, oh, business is business between me and you. No, he would say that has been a smachta.
And therefore?
He's not the slave. He can 35 days. He can still pay it back. You know, if the contract continues, then he gets to pay it back.
A solution. He's calling the day up. Yeah, this is happening today. He can't make it. He's telling you.
The roads open up at night. You missed that day. Finish, it's over.
So I would have told him he should have done his tefillah at home and had in mind the makom hamikdash.
You never put a picture of the koisel so that can do in New York as well. He doesn't need you to do it in Shemesh.
It could be, but that was honest to get to the Kotel, not honest to do the tefillah. He could have done the tefillah where he was and then continued.
He davened all day long for him. But I told you I want you to go to the koisel to daven, and that you didn't. That was the condition. And you agreed. You agreed to it.
Was there no other way to get Kushan Kushan?
No other, unless you provide me a chopper, or the Awanavi takes me on his wings.
Couldn't have gone around from the south. There's no.
Roads were closed completely. Oines gamu.
The H Kotel camera, by the way, if you want to.
So that he can do from New York as well. He doesn't need the Shemesh guy.
Salesmen don't get paid.
Unless I deliver the goods.
No. Until the customer pays the supplier, okay? He was all right then not to pay commission. Once he gets paid, once the seller gets paid from the customer, then the salesman gets his commission, all right? You mean he was supposed to pay in 30 days, and the customer took 60 days?
The contract between them is...
No, I still get my commission when the customer pays.
The contract between them was very clear, and it's different. The contract is, you go 40 days, whether my problem is solved or not, but you went 40 days for me, I believe it has a koyach to change things upstairs, I'm going to pay you. Before I get paid by HaKadosh Baruch Hu, before the trouble is removed, doesn't make a difference. This is the condition between us. Do you agree? And the guy said yes. You want to say something?
We say with a Nazir, if the Nazir takes the vow, becomes a Nazir, and he comes, and that happens, becomes Tameri, then he just, the days that he was a Nazir, they fall aside, and he starts again, the count for his own. So isn't that comparable? He can stop.
And you can compare the Hilchos of Nazir, a unique, standalone type of halacha that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave, to monetary laws and conditions and contracts.
The Rav's going to connect it to the Sfiras Omer, right?
Really? Let's see, I'm not sure about that. This is a monetary question. It has to do with the Yana de Yoma that happened 2 weeks ago. Everybody remembers.
The more you get there.
What about Gemara?
Lo shmei asya. Chazoy le'asoy. Chazoy le'asoy.
And therefore?
It's not called that he came. He didn't do it. So it's called...
So he doesn't get
So
compensated.
the get is chal.
So Lemaisa, the fact that he went 2 weeks to Yerushalayim, you don't care about. You give him nothing for that. You're afraid to say yes.
According to this...
The agreement was like that. He doesn't get anything.
You said before that one needs to do a certain amount of ishtad.
One has to do certain shadus, yeah?
And the bracha comes from Kodesh Baruch. You go into a contract. Kodesh Baruch what stops you doing it. Okay, so that's it. There was a contract, you couldn't fulfill it. The guy doesn't get his bracha, because Kodesh Baruch didn't want this man to get his bracha, and you're going to get your $5,000, you're going to get your parnasah. That's it. Kodesh Baruch will bring the fire. You've got to stop to both people benefiting. Who's arguing? There's nothing to say.
First of all, we'll see if there's nothing to say. And second of all, maybe HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to provide a partial bracha. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave a Shulchan Aruch. He told us what to do in situations like this. Maybe HaKadosh Baruch Hu addresses this. And therefore HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, you're not going to get the 5,000. And maybe he will get the 5,000. Nechazei anan. Let's see. L'chaira, the rich guy is 100% right. Why do I have to pay for your oinus? It's not my problem. Choshen Mishpat, Simen Chaf Aleph, Seif Koten Gimel, the Shach says, he brings the opinion of Rabbi Yochanan in Yerushalmi, that if I obligate myself to do something that I'm not chayav, this is the case. Bet Shemesh guy is not chayav to do this, not putting on tefillin in the morning. He commits himself to go every single day to the koisel because the rich guy asked him, and he commits himself. If something happens to him with an oines, why should the rich guy have to pay him because of his oines? And therefore the Shach says he's exempt. Why? Because we have a rule. Oines, Rachmana, Patrei. Because Baruch Hu is exempting you from oines. But we don't have a rule. Oines Rachmana Chayvei. HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't tell you have to pay when somebody else has an oines. You're exempt. In other words, you're not going to be any claim on you. You had to do a mitzvah, you weren't able to, something happened, fine. But oines Rachmana Chayvei Lo Amrinan. We don't say such a thing. So it's not my problem, says the rich guy, and the Shach seems to agree with him. If my friend didn't fulfill his t'nai, his condition, it's his problem, not mine. L'choira, it's the same thing by us. You had an oines on the road, you weren't able to drive. Oines rachmana patre. If you had to go for a mitzvah, Kodesh Baruch Hu would say, don't worry about it. But it's not like you actually went. You didn't go to the koisel, you never got there. You didn't daven there, and therefore how can we obligate the rich guy to pay him? And even though he started to drive, and he got stuck, Shulchan Aruch, Choshed Mishpat, Simin Sheleg, snow, Shin Lamed Gimel, Seif Aleph says, if you hire workers, you want some workers to come into your field and water the place tomorrow morning. So you call them tonight, you say, come tomorrow morning, not Shabbos, come on Sunday morning. They come on Sunday, they drove a long way, they get there, says, sorry, I don't need you to do any work here because, you see what happened last night? It rained so much. I don't know if you rained where you come from, but it didn't stop raining the whole night. I don't need you to work. Does he have to pay? He hired them to come. They came all the way. And now he says, annoyance, I don't need you to work here. The halacha is, he doesn't have to pay a dime to the workers. Especially in our case, it's a makas medina. It's not something local. It's all over, it's spread all over. It's not something by somebody did a specific onus, or somebody said somebody became sick or something like that. This is a makas medina. This is something from above. L'choira, he doesn't need to pay. However, we don't care about midach tzadidus. Then he can decide afterwards if he wants to be a nice guy. We want to know what shuras halacha is. L'choira, until now, he doesn't have to pay. But it seems that for what he did until now, the 2 weeks that he did drive to the koisel, he will have to pay. Even though the agreement clearly says if it's no 40 days, you are exempt. And we said that if a worker, there was an oines, a balabais, there was an oines, he doesn't have to pay $1 because the rule is hamoitzi mechavero alav haray. If you want to take out money from my pocket, the burden of proof is on you. The Rema says it's clearly in Shin Lamed Daled, Shelik +1. Shin Lamed Daled, Seif Aleph. Any oines that happened to the worker or to the balabais, he doesn't have to pay. The worker knows when he is hired that if any oines is going to come about, he is the one that loses out. However, what we say we don't pay the worker is going on from here forward, not going back for what he already worked. If I hire the workers to come work in my field and there's some kind of an oines that prevents them from working, so I don't have to pay them for what they're not going to do, but they're not going to do it. I don't have to pay them for the whole day that they would have worked, because lemaisa they're not going to work. But for what they did work until now, you have to pay. So this guy worked. He drove 2 weeks straight to Yerushalayim, and this is similar to Bab Metzia Ayin Tes Amud Aleph, a person who rents a donkey. He hires a donkey, he hires a car, and he drives. And he's supposed to go from here all the way down to Beersheba. And he starts driving or riding the animal, and halfway through, the animal dies. The car breaks down. Does he have to pay or not? Says the Gemara, he has to pay. He has to pay up to the point where he arrived. Even though the guy who hired it can say to the owner, but I didn't want to come here. I wanted to go all the way down to Beersheba, not to stop halfway through. So Tosfos explains, because the guy can tell him, listen, you can hire a car from here. It's going to be cheaper. You only have to pay half the price. Or Tosfos says that you had merchandise to sell, and you can also sell it in this place, even though you didn't intend to go here initially. So how much more so here? He went 2 weeks. For sure, the tefillos that he davened in the koisel helped the rich guy. We have a fervent belief. There is no tefillah that goes unanswered. The Gaon Mivilna says it many times. Sometimes you don't hear a Kodesh Baruch Hu says, okay, I will grant you what you request. But there's no such thing as a tefillah that goes unanswered. So I went 2 weeks on your behalf, and I davened in the koisel. I worked. If I worked, and you did get some of the goods, you have to pay for it. More than that. If he's going to continue to go every single day from here on, in other words, there was 2 weeks, 1 day break, and now he has to get to 40 days. Licheoira, he has to pay him the entire 5,000. Why? Ben Yoyada, Ben Ishchai, the end of Maseches Rosh Hashanah brings Reb Shlomo Kluger, who deals in Shal Tshuvas Tuv Ta'am V'das, If a person who wasn't able to circumcise his son, let's say the first and second kids died as a result of the bris milah, so we don't circumcise the third one. Why? Nil sakana. It's called mesu echav machmas milah. If his brothers died as a result of bris milah, it's an inyan of sakana, and we don't circumcise the third one. He may die as well. Is he considered in the eyes of Ribono Shel Olam as a person who's circumcised? It's an oinus. We wanted to do it, he wants to do it, but we can't. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the same HaKadosh Baruch Hu who said go and circumcise him, says don't do it because this is a pikuach nefesh ala, this guy may die. Is he considered at lemaise a person who is circumcised or not? So this is dependent on a machloikis in Yerushalmi. Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish. Onsa, keman de avidami, olav kedami, olav keman de avidami. When a person is faced with an oinus, is it considered that he actually did what he was supposed to do? It's just the Maise didn't do it, but it's counted upstairs as if he did or not. We paskin, like the Shach brought before, that onsa is keman de lo avid dami. When you have an oinus, it's as if you did not fulfill what you were supposed to do. So if that's the case, he is not considered circumcised. But, says the Ben Yoyada, when do we say this? Between man and HaKadosh Baruch Hu, onsa is keman de avidami. When you have an oinus, HaKadosh Baruch Hu counts it as if you did, because the Gemara in Brachos Daf Vav Amud Aleph says, Chishev la'asos mitzvah, v'ne'enas v'lo asa. One wanted to do a mitzvah, and he wasn't able to. He was forced not to do it. Ma'ale alav ha'kasuv ke'ilu asa'a. HaKadosh Baruch Hu counts it as if you did do the mitzvah. So in the eyes of Ribono Shel Olam, this kid is considered as if he's mahul. He is circumcised. When do we say, that's a technical thing, when do we say that it's keman de lo avid dami? That's between Adam lachaveiro. If I want you to do a certain business for me and you didn't, I had an oinus. Then we don't say, but I had an oinus, it's like I did it. No, you didn't do. Between man and HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it is counted as if you did. Between man and his friend, it is counted as if you didn't do. Based on this, the Ben Yehuda says, why is it the Gemara says that when the Kohanim give us a bracha, those people in the fields are also blessed? Let them come to the shul. Why would they be blessed as well? They're not here. Because they're be'oinus. They can't be here. If you're be'oinus, this is a bracha that comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu counts all those people who weren't able to be here as if they were here. Because onsa in the world of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is keman de avid dami, as if you have fulfilled it. Lichoira, the same thing applies here. This rich guy needs rachmei shamayim. He needs the blessing of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu blesses the people in the fields, even though they're not in the shul. HaKadosh Baruch Hu will bless the rich guy, even though this guy wasn't able to get to the koisel. But we should reject that. But wait a second. You're right, in HaKadosh Baruch Hu's eyes, the person as if went. But that's reward coming from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We're talking about monetary laws. Reward coming from the rich guy. And then we said between Adam lechavero, if you have an oinus, it is not counted as if you performed what you were supposed to count. So why should he pay him? So Lichoi doesn't have to pay him for the rest of the 2 weeks. But if he's going to continue, and again get to day 41, Lichoi, then he'll have to give him the entire 5,000. Because oines is counted as if you did not go. But oines is not a hefsek in retzifus. Oines doesn't stop the continuous ongoing back-to-back every single day. It's an oinus, you didn't go, you're right. But if you're going to continue and get to day 41, so you might say you have 40 days that you did go to the koisel, and we're not going to count the oinus as a hefsek, as a break between the 40 days. And lichoira, he will have to pay him the entire 5,000 if he gets to day 41. So to summarize it.
What does that have to do with?
Why is onus a hefsek? Why is onus a hefsek? If you didn't go because you're lazy, because you're tired for whatever reason, that's a hefsek. But if HaKadosh Baruch Hu stopped you from going, we don't count it as a hefsek. We count it as you didn't go, so you can't get paid for that day. But get to day 41, so they might say you have 40 straight days, and onus lichoyo should not be counted as a hefsek. Mimelu, you have 40 straight days, because in the eyes of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and that's what you need, the bracha of Hashemayim, there is no hefsek. The guy always went, so now he has even an extra day.
But if he stops after the 2 weeks, does he have to?
What's that?
If he stops
because of the oinus, you can still say a bracha?
Say it again? I can't hear you.
If we didn't count the Omer because of an onus,
Yeah.
we can still say a bracha?
That's coming in 1 second. We're going to talk about that.
If he stops at the 2 weeks, does the rich guy have to pay the 5,000 or just expenses of.
Only the 2 weeks, because Lemaisa he benefited from the tefillos.
Let's assume it was $1 million, not 5,000. He pays 1/3.
No. L'chora, the expenses that he had for going to Yerushalayim for 2 weeks, because the deal was 5,000 doesn't represent his expenses. It represents the 40 days, a special bonus that I give you for going 40 straight days. But if you only provided 2 weeks, you're going to get 2 weeks worth, which means the expenses, not the 40 divided into.
Expenses, 2,500?
No, not divided in per days. We'll just calculate and estimate how much it costs you to get from here to the Kotel, your gas, your wear and tear, your time, and you'll be paid for that.
Time is money, what do you mean?
Time is money, but your time is not $5,000 worth of money. So the 5,000 is a bonus for going 40 days straight. For 2 weeks, you'll get what normal people get for shlichus, which is 2 hours of your time for 2 weeks.
Regarding the Bekat Kohanim and the men in the field, we say that, normally we say that you have to stand in front of the Kohanim to be blessed. If someone stands further up,
In back of the, facing them.
so therefore, over there, why he's not blessed? Because he could come behind. And therefore, he doesn't have the oiness.
That's what the poskim say. Unless the guy is in the middle of Shemona Esrei. Unless the guy is the chazan, and the way situated in the shul is that the Kohanim stand in front of the chazan. So here's be'oinus. He's just like the people in the fields, and he will be blessed. Rabbi Isai.
How does that connect to,
Is the Gemara, is it what Chaya? Some workers, was it not Chaya? Some workers were carrying barrels of wine for him. And they,
Here's the raya. Thank you. What's the raya that it's not a hefsek? We're saying if it's 40 days and there's a break in the middle, if it's be'oines, it's not a break. It doesn't stop the retzifus if you continue 41 days. The raya is from what you're saying. Shemesh Shin Yud Aleph. The Shul Shemesh brings what the Gemara says: a person who hired a boat to transfer some wine, and something happened, an accident, and the boat drowned, and the wine went kaput. If he is able to provide another boat to transfer more wine, it is counted as if it's one big long rental agreement. We don't say it, that's what you meant. We don't count it as 2 separate rental agreements. You see that it doesn't cause a break in the ritzifus. It's one big rental agreement, and that lichoira would apply here as well.
I was actually thinking of another episode where he hired wine, and they maybe through, they were not careless and they broke the barrels, and he had another Rav told him, was it not higher? You have to pay them. You have to pay them, even though they cause you damage, you have to pay them for the work they did.
Here they did some work and they caused some damage. I'm not sure you can compare. He didn't cause any damage. He just didn't provide the work necessary.
Well, why did you have to pay them for what? You have to pay them for their wages, because they didn't leave you the wages for their food or something like that.
Fine. But how do you compare that to our case?
Because they've not fulfilled what they were supposed to do.
But the question over there, they caused damage. They broke the barrels of wine. Here it didn't cause any damage. He just didn't do extra like you expect him to do. You're asking what's the connection to Pasuk Shavua?
to what you were asking about?
The fires from 2.5 weeks ago in Yana de Yoima. If somebody wants to connect the Tzfiras Omer, go ahead. I'll be very happy to, but we don't need to connect it with Yana de Yoima. Topical events. Rabbi said another question.
The kosher wine.
What's that?
You started off, how is rivers and kosher
Oh, okay, fine.
All right.
It's a stretch, but why not? Yeah. Here we have a connection. Not exactly to Pasuk Shavua, but in a roundabout way. Another question which somebody asked over there in the back about Tzfiras Omer. Let's talk about Tzfiras Omer. Very, very relevant to us in Yana de Yoima and Parashas HaShavua, counting and counting and counting. A guy goes to Daven Ma'ariv. It's time to count Tzfiras Omer, and then he starts thinking, wait a second, did I count yesterday? I'm not sure I counted. I know for a fact I went to Shul. And by definition, in a Shul, they count. But I don't remember counting, and I don't remember yesterday's count. Did I count or not? I'm not sure. He decided to continue counting with a bracha. Is he right? Yes, that's the halacha. Why is it halacha? Because there's sveka, there's double suffix here. First of all, maybe you did count. And second of all, maybe if one forgets an entire day, he didn't count, he is able to continue counting. That's the opinion of the majority of poskim. The Bahag doesn't hold like that. The Bahag says, this is not 49 individual mitzvahs. This is one long mitzvah. So if you miss one day, you lost the whole thing. So we are choishesh to the chumrah of the bahag. And because of that, if you have one suffix, you don't count. But if you have double suffix, you're not sure if you counted. And we're not sure if the bahag is right or majority of poskim are right. That is 49 independent mitzvahs. The halacha is he is right and he continues to count. And that's what he did. 5 minutes after he counts, he started thinking, wait a second. Why should I be in the dark about this? And he called the Gabbai of the Shul. Gabbai, do me a favor. Can you check the cameras of the Shul? Tell me if I counted or not. Sure, no problem. In every Shul today there's cameras. The guy faces his seat is right in front of the camera. The Gabbai calls him after 5 minutes. He says, last night's chazan was very, very fast. You were in the middle of Shmoneh Esrei, and I see the way you daven, such kavana. By the time you finish Shmoneh Esrei, everybody already left the shul. And I see you davening Shmoneh Esrei, and immediately davening Aleinu L'Shabech. And then you went home. So now he remembers for a fact he didn't count at home. So now his question from before, did I count or not, was answered. He didn't count. So now he comes and he asks, do I need to do this? Did I need to call the Gabbai and to find out? Today, when you have a suffix, which can very easily be resolved by having the Gabbai check the cameras.
Can you take the technology piece out of it and then say this ask the person that was standing next to you?
Oh, forget about technology. If you can call your friend and ask him, because he, instead of davening, he just looks around. That's what he does. There's no cameras. What would Chazal say? Some people, they finish one essay and they turn around to look. What's going on here today? Oh, this guy came again. Oh, finally. Oh, nice shirt. Oh, there are new shoes. Why am I saying this? Because there's a underrated Rema. Very important halacha. Chaim Kuf Chav Gimel Seif Beis. The Rema says when one finishes one essay, he's not allowed to turn around. Not allowed to. And people do it all the time. You finish one essay, you have time to hang out until the chazan starts. Let's see what's going on. And they do the fan action. They scan the whole shul. Who's here, who's not, and what's going on. It's terrible. The Mishnah Berurah brings 2 reasons from the Levush. Why that is. Why are you not allowed to look back? Fascinating reasons. Either because you are disturbing his kavana. When somebody is davening Shmoneh Esrei and you feel somebody's looking at you, it wrecks your kavana. Not less interesting in the second answer. Because if you turn around, people may start suspecting you. How is it possible? I'm in Moedim and this guy finished. I think he skipped a few words. How is it possible he's so fast? People are going to suspect you, and the pasuk says, Parshas Matos, Ve'isem nekiim meHashem umi Yisrael. You should be clean in the eyes of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and in the eyes of Klal Yisrael. Don't do things that people may suspect you. So until the chazan starts his repetition, you're not allowed to turn around. So let's say you had this guy who was a turnarounder. Oh, he already davened. He just happens to sit there. He's a tzaddik. He sits there facing and sees you, and he likes watching you. He gets a special charge, spirituality from the way you daven. And you can call him and find out. It's not Eidus. It's Gilui Milsa. The camera is also not Eidus. It's something which is clear. You're not sure, and I'll tell you what you did. Are you required to? Or Chazal going to say, no, chas v'sholom. This is not technology. It's a way to reveal something which you were doubtful about.
If you can't find out,
if you can't find, we know what the halacha is. You have a double suffix, you continue counting. But if you can find out, do you do it or not?
There's not a suffix, and you can verify it, can't you? But I don't
It's a hefsek ba'onis. It's like a ritzivus.
The question is, am I supposed to find out a suffix when I can?
No, in this case, no, because it won't matter. Even if you'll find out you didn't count, you could keep on counting because it was a hefsek ba'onis.
That we don't say. Since we are choishesh to the chumrah of the bahag, if one loses one day, it's one long mitzvah, not 49 independent mitzvahs. He is not allowed to continue counting. That's the halacha. Oines or not oines, doesn't make a difference. In this case, it's not going to help us. But if there's a double suffix, so then we allow him to continue. So we need to know if he wants to continue counting with a bracha.
I don't know if it is relevant or not, but it makes me think that someone has a big bucket full of money, he should not count it. And there could be a bracha on it, but if he counts it, it's already...
And therefore, אין הברכה מצויה אלא בדבר הסמוי מן העין, מסכת טייניס, Tess, I think, in Metzia Membeis. How is this relevant? This is in order to allow you to say a bracha, not to be blessed by HaKadosh Baruch Hu in a secret way.
Can we compare what's the extent in which you have to check when we're looking for bugs in the lettuce?
We're looking for?
Bugs in the lettuce. How do you put that in the lettuce? Right? As far as I understand, the is you use the normal eyesight. You don't have to get out your magnifying glass. Right? You're not expected to go beyond. So can we use that as a comparable situation here? We only have CCTV cameras very recently. It's not something that is known.
No, but forget about a camera. Let's say you know your friend was there and you can call and ask him, or go tomorrow morning and ask him, did I count or not? Forget about technology because it's something new. Conceptually, when you have a suffix, are you required to go and check it out? Or we say, I have a suffix, I'm not required to. The halacha says, when I have a suffix, I know what to do. That's the question.
If the friend is there, there's no suffix.
If the
friend is there and watching, there's no suffix.
But when I go home and I start doubting myself, am I required to remove that suffix? Or no? When you have a suffix, the halacha says there is no issue. So go continue and daven. With a bracha.
I read that the Shevet Levi says that when you have a Sefer Torah, you have to check it with the computer, because now that the option exists, then you have to use it.
There is no complete halachic obligation to check with a computer, because if it was good for our forefathers, the Sefer Torah is going to be kosher when you check it. But you got to be foolish not to do that. You want to make sure the Sefer Torah is kosher. The nafkamina is, if you tell me this Sefer Torah that you're about to read was not checked with a computer, but only 15 top soifrim checked it. Oh, so I can't use it? Of course I can. No problem. But when you write a new Sefer Torah, or if you go send it to be fixed, and you want to check it, why wouldn't you want to use the top technology to make sure? And many times in the computer they find what soifrim do not find. But you can't say it's a complete obligation. It's a strong recommendation. It's the right thing to do. But it's not a complete obligation. So let's see. The Reman Yoredea, Simen Kuf Yud, Seif Tes writes, even when you have an Isur Deoraisa, you can remove it when you have a double suffix. You have a Sfeka, you can remove an Isur Deoraisa. Even though, he's talking about Ilchos Treifos, you can go and check the lung of the behema. You don't need to. Right now, there's a Sfeka in front of you, we can say this thing is muta. However, the Shach over there brings that the opinion of the Rashba is that if you can go and check and remove your suffix, you have to. So the Shach says, if there's something that you can check, and there's no loss involved, it's not going to cost you any money, you need to check. But belavachi, if that's not the case, you don't have to be machmir, and you can paskin like the Shach, that you can even remove an Isur Deoraisa when you have a Sfeka. The Pri Megadim writes, if this checking doesn't involve any toirach, it's not a big burden, not a big deal, one has to ask. For example, asking my friend. But, and the raya is, from Psachim, somebody I think mentioned before, B'dikas Chametz, Daf Dalet Amud Beis. You go and you rent a place for Pesach. You come, Erev Pesach. All the homes of Klal Yisrael, everybody checks. Do I have to go and ask the landlord, did you check last night, B'dikas Chametz? I do. Why can't you rely on the chazaka that all from Yidden, everybody checks for chametz? No. Because when it's so easy, just ask. What's the big deal? Ask the guy, did you check last night because chametz or not? So we don't rely on chazaka and rov when you can easily check and we require you to check. In other words, to ask in order to find out if there is a suffix here or not. I was recently asked, there's a chazan. A guy is in Avelus, so he's a chazan. I think he's 6 months into it. He says, every single day, when I finish my private Shmona Esrei, I look back, and the Gabbai says, you're fine, you can go. There's more than 10 people here, start. And I start. It's 6 months straight, not even one day that I finished my Shmona Esrei and the people weren't ready and I had to wait for them. Do I have to continue looking back every single day when I finish Shmona Esrei, or I can rely on the Chazaka? He says, somebody told me that I can rely on the Chazaka 6 months straight. So I don't have to look back. I told him, of course you cannot rely on the Chazaka. This is similar to Hilchos Tzitzis. Every single day, you take your talis and you check your strings. Why do you check them? Make sure nothing tore. There's no tear, there's no knots or anything. Why do you have to check them? Well, that's 25 years you checked them and there was no problem. Do you ever remember that you actually had a problem? I don't. Don't recall any 25, 30 years that I'm using a talis. I never had a problem with my talis every single morning. I fold them up, I put them back in, nobody uses them, 12 hours later I take them out, there's no problem. And yet, something which can easily be checked, the Ika leverure, it's very easily can check, you do check and you don't rely on a chazaka and you don't rely on a rov. And especially in the Chazin's case, it's a very weak type of chazaka. Who says the same guys from yesterday came today? Who says the same guys from yesterday came today and they didn't go to the bathroom right when they finished Shmoneh Esrei? Maybe you didn't realize, but today you daven faster than your normal speed. A million reasons why you can't rely. And it's something that so easily can be found out. Turn your head around, look for the gabbai to give you the signal and start. Do not rely on a chazaka and a rov, and you have to check. Same thing over here. The question is here, when I call the gabbai, go check the cameras. For me, it's very easy. Pick up the phone, gabbai, go check for me. Is that considered something which is easily can be checked? For the gabbai, it's a little more difficult. Lichoira has to do with the gabbai's ease of checking and not mine. If it's a big deal, it's going to take them 3 hours to find exactly where the recording is from that time. We don't call it Ika leveruri. That's something which is easily can be checked. But if it's something that's very easy, he knows how to do it. Within 5 seconds, he finds that segment of davening and he can find out. Lichoira, that's something that can be checked. But even though we're saying that it's so easy to check and one should check, lichoira, here you don't have to. When you have a sfeika, and we said before that you have to check according to some opinions, that's when you can remove both sfeikas. Here you're only going to remove one. You're never going to decide between the bahag and the other poskim that say it's 49 independent mitzvahs or the bahag says one long mitzvahs. You're going to find out if last night you can't or not. But it's still not going to remove the two sfeikas. So when you have two sfeikas, you do not have to go and check in order just to remove one. When we require you to go and check, it's in order to remove both sfeikas and not one. There's a machlokes poskim about this. Chavos Das and the Noida Beyuda both say that if only one suffix will be revealed, you don't have to go and check. The Shach holds that in a case like this, you still have to go, even though you won't be able to remove both sfeikas. The svara behind this machlokes is, do you have to check, find out what the suffix is, until we will find out what exactly is the halacha? But when I'm never going to find out what the halacha is, why should I check? I'm never going to find out what the halacha really is between the bahag and all the rest of the poskim. It's not at my hands to decide. The poskim already decide that we go lechumra, we're choishish to the bahag. I'm never going to be able to find that out. I don't have to check. Or, as long as you have a suffix that can be revealed, it's not a suffix. A suffix is something that you don't know, but when you can find out, it's not called a suffix. So the Chazon Yechezkel in Ksubis Aleph, he deals with this at length, and he brings it to Machlokes HaRishonim, and he says, according to Rashi holds that you go and you find out, since there is a reusa in front of us, it's talking again about treifos and stuff like that, if there's some kind of a reusa, something went sour in front of us, and you are able to go and check, you should. The Toises say you do not have to go check, because when there is a sfeika, it's as if there is no isu. The halacha says, sfeik as if there is, ignore the isu. So I don't have to go and create a problem when there is no one. So according to that, even according to Rashi, everybody would agree, when there is no reusa, and nothing went sour, and that is exactly okay, I'm just doubtful. I'm not sure what happened last night. Everybody would agree that I don't have to go check, and I can continue counting with a bracha. And especially that according to most poskim, it's really 49 independent mitzvahs. It's just the chumrah of the bahag that we're choishish to when we say maybe it's one long mitzvah and you can't count. But in this specific case, after the gabbai already checked, now you're stuck. Now we know for a fact it's not an edus, it's gilui milsa be'alma. He's telling you, lemaise, you didn't count. It's not a din of edus, it's a din of yediya berura. We know for a fact. I'm not choishish, and I know after davening I didn't go home. That I know for sure. It's not a suffix in my mind. So Mimele, at that point, when the gabbai told you that you didn't count, you cannot continue with the bracha. So about yesterday's bracha, I'm not sure it's a suffix, it's a bracha levatala. Because when you said the bracha, you did the right thing. You didn't have to check, and the halacha says you're allowed to continue. Now, you're finding out that you weren't able to continue, so yesterday's bracha was valid. Hereafter, you're not allowed to continue counting. So, summarize it. There's a few reasons why you don't have to go and check. It's a tircha, if it is a tircha for the gabbai, because memele, all the sfeikas were not going to be resolved. There is no re'usa in front of us. Nothing went sour that causes us to go and check. And the majority opinion of Poskim is that one who forgot to say with the bracha is actually can continue the following day. And in this case, that one does go and check the recordings, if you find out you didn't count, you will have to stop and you cannot continue counting with a bracha.
Shouldn't it be more miracle, like say, tell his friend to be out to him, to avoid also people?
No. If the halacha says that you're allowed to count when you have a double suffix, you're allowed to continue saying the bracha every single day. You don't have to worry about anything. You have to be tzaddik and a chassid and a parush more than the poskim that allow you to continue saying a bracha. Since we're on topic of Sfiras Omer,
so the best of the opinion, he should not have asked. He should have continued.
Right, he didn't have to ask, and once he asked, he wrecked it for himself, and he cannot continue saying with the bracha. But Baruch Hashem, he asked, because now we found out a new halacha, and then the one doesn't have to ask because of him. Yagdil Torah v'yadir.
You ask a shayla, it's straight.
Not always. Sometimes it's kosher. In this case, since we talked about Sfiras Omer, interesting halachos.
The Rav said that the Gabbai, after he was waiting for people to finish, so to make sure there's 10 people before he started, because there's someone else. So Gabai's about to look around. So can't you also say
the Gabbai is allowed. The Gabbai that's his tafkid. And if it's somebody else who's appointed to do this, that's fine. But other people, that's not what they do. They just turn around to see what's going on in Shul. The Rema says, you're not allowed to do this.
No, I've been in Shul where the Gabbai's like waiting for you to look towards him to signify that you finished the Shemoneh Esrei. So you're not allowed to do that.
Once you walk back, the Gabbai sees that you walked back, or if you missed it, so he sees that you're not engaged in intense davening, he sees that you're just hanging out. A Gabbai, a qualified Gabbai, knows how to do this. Don't worry. That's what we have, very, very qualified Gabbai. There's a Rav who is an Avelus. So therefore he's a Chazan every single night. Last night he forgot to count. It's a famous Shaila. Tonight he has to count again. Or in a place where he's not the Chazan, but they honor the rabbi. Many shuls do that, not the Chazan, but they honor the rabbi. He should count out loud. He forgot to count. He's not allowed to count anymore with a bracha. Oof, the embarrassment, the Chilul Hashem, Kvod HaTorah, if the Chazan looks at him and says, I can't. You do it. Imagine. What a Chilul Hashem. Kvod HaTorah, Kvod HaRabbanus, big embarrassment. Godol Kvod HaBrios. What does he do? So we find 6 opinions about that. Opinion number 1, some say the rabbi should go ahead of time before davening to one of the people in Shul and say, listen, don't say a bracha today. Don't count to the bracha. I'll say it for you and I'll be moitzi you. Nobody needs to know. Shomea ke'oine. When he hears my bracha and he says amen, it's as if he said it. So I didn't do it for myself. I'm not allowed to do it for myself. I did it for him. I was moitzi him. Nobody needs to know. And I'm able to continue counting with a bracha. Eitzah number 2, some say, Gadol Kvod HaBrios is so great that the Rav can even continue to count without being moitzi anyone. Because Kvod HaBrios is doiche, overrides at Isur Derabanan. Bracha Levatala, according to most poskim, is only a bracha miderabanan. It's an Isur Derabanan, and therefore he can continue without all these inventions.
On the first one, there are some berachot that one has to do himself. I cannot ask someone to do for me a shakol or a...
That's Birkos Haneni. Birkos Haneni, when I'm about to eat something, if you're not going to eat it, you can say the bracha for me. But Birkos HaMitzvah, one can be moitzi. You did Havdalah, you come back home, and you need to do Havdalah again for some people who are not able to do it. You're able to. Birkos HaMitzvah, you're able to. But some people don't like this eitzah. Every eitzah that I'm going to give, except for the last eitzah, I think, some people challenge. So we have 2 eitzahs already. Third eitzah, the eitzah of the Avnei Nezer. Regarding something else, but we can apply it here. Take out a Rambam. Rabbi, take the Rambam. Put it right on the Yamud, nobody needs to see. Learn the halacha of Sfiras Omer. Learn the halacha quietly. And when the Rambam says, and thou shalt say, Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, that's say loud. When you're learning, you're allowed to say Shem Hashem. So say it loud and then continue again quietly, and nobody needs to know. Give Aldik an eitzah. Some people don't like it. Another eitzah, Chavos Das.
You just say the bracha is, to himself, the bracha is.
Yeah, the Rambam says, every night when you do Sfiras Omer, thou shalt count. Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam. Nobody needs to know what you're doing. I'm learning. I'm not allowed to learn. Another eitzah, Chavos Das.
People can answer amen to that bracha?
Yoitze they're not. I'm not trying to be yoitze. Everybody counts to themselves. No problem. If yoitze, we go back to the first eitzah. So I'm moitzi someone else. But today, lichoira, we're not moitzi anyone because everybody's yoitze on their own. Can they answer amen? Lichoira, they should not. They should not. Am I machshil them, stumbling them? We're saying an amen levatala. I think Godol Kvod Abrios will override an amen levatala if, according to many opinions, it overrides a bracha levatala. Amen levatala is a little less than a bracha levatala without Shem Hashem. The Rambam says when you count today, you can say Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Sfat Omer, and then say Hayom Yom Echad. Today is not the first day, so I'll say today is the 40th day. That's what the Rambam told me. I'm applying. I'm learning the Rambam out loud and applying it. What if it would be today? It's a great eitzah.
When you're learning and you say Baruch Atah Hashem, you say Hashem, you don't say Hashem.
Machloikes and many opinions say you can say Ado, you can say Shem Hashem. Many opinions. According to that, there's no issue. Another opinion, Chavos Das says, if you put in yourself a tremendous yearning for this mitzvah, learn the halachos, get excited about it, you can say the bracha is an edava. Just before davening, get all excited about it. When you finish one essay, look a few halachos and midrashim about the big Indian of Sfiras Omer, get excited and say the bracha is a nedava. The Chavos Das. Reb Chaim Kanievsky Zatzal said, the pasuk in Mishlech Af Aleph Lamed says, En chochma ve'en tvuna ve'en eitza leneged Hashem. You can't start inventing new toyas. The halacha says you can't count. You can't count. Are you worried? People are going to say, look at how humble our rabbi is. He's not embarrassed. He is humble. He realizes he did something, I don't want to say wrong, but probably it was bonus. He was probably with his wife in the hospital the whole night last night. That's why he forgot. He realized what the halacha is and doesn't try to create new inventions. And he teaches us what the halacha is, and he teaches us humility. That's what Chaim Kanev says. I have a new eitzah. I think it's the best from all the eitzahs. It works. Take your kid, or any other kid from the shul. Put him right next to you. Says, look, I'm about to teach you now a halacha. Say after me. This is how we say Sfiras Omer. Baruch Ato Hashem. Count out loud, just like you do. We do it all the time in the cheder. You teach the kids how to bench. You'll say it 100 times sometimes until they get it. With Hashem's name. It's chinuch. I don't care about them. I'm not trying to be moitzim. I'm trying to give a chinuch to my kid or to somebody else's kid. Nobody needs to know why I'm doing it. There's a kid in shul, bring him over. Nobody needs to know why you're doing this. Teach him. Look, follow me. Say just like me. You cover all bases. Rabbi agreed that this is a fantastic eitzah. Another interesting halacha. One who davens Shmoneh Esrei. Imagine you're davening along Shmoneh Esrei, and the guy next to you is already Sfiras Omer. The guy next to you is counting, and instead of saying today is 40 days, he said 41 or 39. Should you stop in the middle of Shmoneh Esrei to correct him? Because you want to avoid his bracha levatala. You want to make sure that bracha levatala is very severe. The Gemara says, the time that Kodesh Baruch Hu says, no bracha levatala, don't say Hashem's name in vain, the world shook. Very, very, very severe. Very severe. So am I allowed to raise my voice just for a second? Say, 40, not 41, 40 days, 40.
To speak, I can answer.
In the middle of Shmoneh Esrei, to help my friend.
You can say,
I don't know what he wants. Till tomorrow. And then there's definitely going to be a big hefsek. By 5 minutes, when he realizes what he wants, it's already after shiur equal. One is not allowed to stop in the middle of Shmoneh Esrei unless he's doing so to remove an isur deraisa. But according to Moishe Poskim, we said before, bracha levatala is an isur derabanan, and therefore one will not be able to. But there's an eitzah. If you happen to be in the middle of Shema Koleinu, over there you can add whatever you want. So you say, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, say out loud, today is 40 days to the Omer. I would love to have Siyata Dishmaya in my learning. Is that a lie? Did I add something you're not allowed to? I'm allowed to say that? Hopefully your friend is smart enough to listen to you and to understand what you're doing. But there's an eitzah that can work. Otherwise, you can't stop in the middle of Shmoneh Esrei.
he's not using his own Omer because he said that before he didn't count it.
Today is 40th day of what? I don't know. 40th day. Say it in a smart way. Today is the 40th day. I don't know what. Today is the 40th day. The friend will hear, will pick up, hopefully, and you helped him. Yesterday was 39 days already that I'm trying to... Tomorrow's going to be 41 days. Very good.
Kedusha in the middle of Shema Koleinu like that, like say.
You don't have to invent something. This is to remove an isur derabanan. I don't want my friend to do a bracha levatala, so I'm helping him out in this way. Last thing, the grandson of Abdul Landau Shlita, sometimes is there to help him out, help his great-grandfather. One day he gets a phone call from a guy who's a big Talmid Chochem. He's a Talmid of Abdul Landau. He's a big Talmid Chochem himself. And this Talmid Chochem says, this was 4 p.m., he says, please tell your grandfather. It's a very, very important message. Today I lost 35 shekels. You lost 35 shekels. Please make sure you tell him today. Guy hangs up and he starts thinking, I'm used to strange phone calls. People say all kinds of strange things that I should say to my grandfather. But this maybe is the strangest. 35 shekels he's lost. So what? He wants my grandfather to go and raise money from big donors to give him back the 35. Does he want my grandfather to pay him 35 shekels? What kind of strange thing? Should I waste my grandfather's precious time with this? But it's a big Talmid Chochem. So he wasn't sure what to do. At the end he decided he's going to say to his grandfather this. He's going to deliver the message even though potentially he's wasting his time. Saba, this Talmid Chochem, this rabbi, this, your Talmid, he called before to say that today he lost 35 shekels. Abdul Landau looks at him and says, oh, that's so nice. He should have a long, healthy life. He should have abundance in Ruchnius, in Gashmius, Shlom Bayis. So nice. The grandson looks at him and says, Saba, can you explain? He says, what do you mean? He said he lost 35 shekels today. Don't you understand? He says, no. Obviously, it's his birthday today. He says, how'd you get that? He says, in our Parsha, the Torah says, from the age of 20 to 60, one's value is 50 shekels. From 60 and up, his value drops to 15 shekels. So today, as if he lost 35 shekels. In other words, I'm 60 years old. Rebbe, give me a bracha. That's why he called when it was 4 p.m. and he said, make sure you deliver this message today because today's my birthday. I want a bracha from the Rebbe. The purity in the Ashkafa of Gedolei Yisrael, when they hear something, we hear all kinds of things. We think about our pocket. Oh, you lost 35 shekels, 25 shekels, not so much. They see Torah. Everything in this world is Torah in the eyes of Gedolei Yisrael in Mitzvah Hashem. We should have that pure vision in Mitzvah Hashem. אחינו כל בית ישראל נשואים בצרה ובשביה. העולים דימן בים ובין ביבש, המקום ירחם עליהם ויוציא מצרה לרווחה, מאפילו לאור משעבוד לגאולה. אשתו בעגלו בזמן קריב ונאמר אמן.